This is Rick Harsch, and this is my master class in fiction. And I'm in a different place, and I usually try to set the phone down so it doesn't move around too much, but I'm holding it in my hand right now, and so if it wavers a lot, you can skip it in 2 days. Okay? Um, yeah, this is okay. I'm gonna put it like this, Still says Cubs, you know. Just like it did back in 1711 when the team was formed. Um, I'm the author of this, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas. And I brought this with me because I forgot that there's black people. I'm doing this, now it's going to be a series on race and writing, and it's going to also uh, diverge and go down other alleyways, the verboten and not verboten in writing. And I'm someone who thinks no verboten. Um, but I forgot that I have some major black characters in Eddie Vegas. They're just in Belgium, they're not in the United States. And I think that there's something I can say about that when I'm done with my opening thesis. I have a thesis. That's why I'm doing a second episode the same night as the first. I said I was at the end of the last one, I was going to think for a couple days and come up with some stuff about race and writing. And that, but I got this thesis. This thing that in my head, and what it is essentially is that diversity. Um, by the way, I saw a great Instagram photo today of these chocolate boobies, and they were called diversititties. It was very funny. And anyway, so diversity. One of those words that we're beginning to wish never existed because it's over talked and, just quit talking about diversity. But the thing is, my belief, um, my intellectual belief, is that the human being, who I was told in my first sociology class is the gregarious animal, I think that's true, is also um, naturally enamored of diversity. And I think that the sanest possible evolution of the human being is towards diversity. But because as societies become more and more complex, they become more diverse, and the problems that um, arise over resources, And so if you had the I don't know if the human nature is. I think we're by nature gregarious. Yes, we talk a lot. We have big mouths. So I'm basically fundamentally a good normal human, and and I love diversity. We all love diversity. We writers love diversity because if we don't love diversity, our readers are going to be fucking bored. So fundamentally, we write about diverse people. If you write a play, or let me take a David Vardaman novel that I published in my Vardaman Flip book, published by Corona Samizdat. On one side, you have a novel about a woman who committed crimes in Iowa in the 1960s. On the other side, you have a more enclosed novel. You have a bunch, it's an absurdist book, but about six people sitting around a table in a bar, and they meet every week or so. And they have to be diverse, or you don't have a story. You don't have any interest. And we don't know what race these people are, but we can kind of guess that the writer imagined white people. We don't know if he imagined blondes, black hair. anything, their backgrounds um, don't matter in this particular scenario. But the diversity is necessary, um, because without diversity, you don't get surprise. We love surprise. We don't like bad surprise, like, a meteor crashing into my apartment right now would be no good. But if my dog farted really loud, I would laugh. I mean, a good surprise. Um, so we do love diversity, but we have a really hard time understanding things outside our purview, our experience. And when it comes to the you when you have inequity, it breeds contempt and division and anger and you know and if you don't solve these problems, they fester in diverse ways. Um, when the first uh, encounter with racial problems in the United States that I had was, sort of witnessing the civil rights movement and the Black Panthers, and but I wasn't old enough to fully take it all in. I was born in 1959, but I was old enough to in university to read a lot about it, and even before that through sports books, as I said in the last video. But the thing is, um, white people were already. Oh, there was busing at the time when I was old enough to understand what was going on. How do you solve the problem? Um, Busing. Now, busing was fundamentally stupid because it didn't get at the root problem. Take the poor black kid out of the ghetto and put him in a white school in a suburb. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I remember it wrong. But what you need to do is attack it fundamentally. But if you attack the problem fundamentally, you're doing it economically, and that subverts the capitalist system. So what they tried to do in the United States, and they always try to do, is solve problems in a way that does not fundamentally alter the I don't know, call it whatever you want, neoliberal, capitalist. I would call it oligarchic system that must remain in place. And so liberals are for changes to make slight improvements, like raise the minimum wage. Nobody ever talks about lowering the maximum wage, which I think if you lower the maximum wage down to something, like, let's say 500 grand a year is the maximum wage, who's going to suffer? Nobody is going to be, you'll forgive some debt and so on, and things that people still owe money on. You'll say, okay, you don't owe any more money on that jet, but you can't have the jet. We'll let you rent it at a special whoops fee. So lower that wage. But anyway, the one point I'm trying to get at is why diversity begins to cause problems. And it begins to cause problems because some people have what other people don't. I mean, if you have no, I better not get into religion. But basically, if we were all happy-go-lucky and had our fundamental needs taken care of, um, I think in general, we would let the Jehovah's Witnesses come in. I used to do that when I was in college when they'd come over. I'd let them come in, and then it was fun. Okay, I made fun of them. I joked with them. I gave them tough questions. It was always a blast, though. You know, uh, and so that's this is the presentation of my thesis, and now I just want to talk about the black people in this book, because there's a lesson to be learned here, I think. I think maybe not. I'm talking about migrants in Belgium um, from Africa. In Brussels, the neighborhoods can be ghettoized. I don't know Brussels that well. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but there are Arabic gangs and there are African gangs. And in my book, we have both Arabic and African gangs in a place where they actually are. And but I don't know anything about these people. I've never hung out with them. Um, so my thought was, well, I didn't think anything. I just did it. But in retrospect, my thought is, well, if they're interesting, then they're interesting. And so the fact that the Arab is Arab and the or the Arabs are Arabs and the Africans are Africans, it doesn't really matter. They're very interesting, and they're funny, and they're fun, and the situation is interesting, tense, ironic, and so on. So if you could do that with your characters, do it. But what you don't want to do, probably, because you could do this also with black U.S. characters. Um, but the thing I would guard against doing is don't if you've never experienced life in a genuine black ghetto, don't write about the black ghetto. You know, uh, uh, because well, maybe we'll get into that in the next one. But the thing is, you don't want to take liberties with something you don't know enough about. If you write about a black ghetto from the position of an outsider, that's fine. But you don't want to, like, see, there's a big problem with the word nigger. Um, the, the main problem is that it's a problem. I love Mary Daly, a feminist. Her idea of taking back the bad words, and by calling women would call themselves hags or whatever men called them, and they would take them and kind of sacralize the words and say, "Yeah, I'm a hag, yeah." And the only problem with Mary Daly's theory was that in practice, it was limited to academics um, and activists. And, most people in the United States, most women are not academics and activists. So it didn't really have an effect. But in essence, I think that is what happened with the word nigger. When blacks took it and said, "This is our word now. We can use it. You can't." Um, do they have the right to do that? Yeah. But do you, as a writer, have the right to use that word? Sure, you do. Absolutely. And, if you use it in a racist way, that'll come through. If you use it like in a non racist way, or if to illustrate what a racist would say, fine. If you use it in an intimate way, but you're awkward with that because you're not really familiar with that environment, like you start writing things like "yo nigger man," "yo nigga," like that, and it's not really an environment you've taken part in, that'll come out. That'll be clear. If it's something that you're comfortable with, and you have been in that, like let's say uh, you've been in the rap scene for many years, and you've been amongst black and white rappers and whatever, and you write a novel about the rap scene, then you could do it. Why not? So, anyway, as usual, I'm coming up to the 15-minute point, and I have to stop before I'm ready to stop. But that's good in that it gives me time to think more before the next blathering session. Remember, 3 days, 2 days this time, 3 days next time.